Some people think that Belos will work alongside the Collector, thus also having an influence on the challenges he makes. And while this could be very fitting regarding Luce's challenge, I think the scenes of him in the trailer support a different narrative. As we never see Belos and the Collector together, I think it's more likely he's gone off on his own, as it seems his real goal was just to have him be distracted so that he could go unnoticed and enact his own plan. While the Collector plays his little games and thinks that he's in control, it's actually Belos who's about to take that control. I think that similar to For the Future, the finale will have 3 plot lines, with the Collector's main story following Luce, King, and Ida, the Hexside Squad as puppets, stuck on their own little mission, and then Belos lurking behind the scenes to set up his own endgame. It's only going to be once we reach the episode's final act, and the Collector's game has finally come to a close, that we realize he wasn't the one we should have been worried about. I'm assuming this scene of Belos with the Collector's star thing is going to be roughly around the end of Act 1, as the first 2 stages of the Collector's game are over, and the Hexside Squad have thus just been turned into puppets. He'll then go on a journey to make his way to the Titan's heart, which is where I think he'll end up near the end of Act 2, just before the Collector takes control of King and Ida, and so only just shortly before the end of his game. It's at this point that all the stories will converge, as everyone has now accomplished all their other goals, and we're ready now to focus on the show's final conflict. With Belos no longer needing the Collector at all, this pits him all alone against our heroes as the proper final boss. The reason I and many others believe he's at the heart is because he's in the throne room when we see him fighting Rain. As Belos elects to just leave Rain behind, it's clear that he must be heading for something else, and judging by the state of him, this play is all or nothing. It's also made very clear that he freed Rain from being a puppet, almost definitely using the star thing that he stole from the Collector, and most likely because he had to in order to break away. And as Belos is in the throne room right across from the Titan's heart, I think there's only one thing that he could be trying to get to. It seems that Belos' final plan is to merge with the heart of the Titan, and judging by some of the clips in the trailer, it seems like he managed to do this, as everything's super goopy and now covered in glowing eyes.
Oh no! Eyeballs!
It appears he's used the heart to start spreading over the aisles, and I believe there are only 2 things that this could accomplish. Option 1 is the most widely assumed, that he's gonna possess the Titan. Shout out to the roundtable if that actually happens, because they predicted that one like way too long ago. Option 2 is the one that I find to be a little more intriguing. What if instead of possessing the Titan, he's just trying to corrupt it, and could use this as a way to destroy everyone's magic? This is an idea from a YouTuber called Unorthodox Individual, and I'm going to be building off of it with some of my own ideas. This concept of a Titan-wide corruption by controlling the Titan's heart could actually be even more impactful than possession. I'd imagine that, as it looks very similar to Ida's curse, it might not just corrupt their magic, but actually be able to hurt them. This could all just be an attempt at a second draining spell, where he's just had to get there a little bit differently than before, and will instead drain their magic directly from its source. However, as the trailer didn't show us anything else, this is all just speculation, and we can only know so much. Though the trailer hasn't showcased the entirety of his plan, and certainly hasn't showed us how they're going to manage to beat him, I think it's made abundantly clear that one thing's for sure. If they're going to be able to beat him, they're going to do it together. And now with the Collector at least hopefully on their side, I think this final showdown is going to be absolutely insane. My little sister actually had a pretty cool alternate idea, where what looked like the light glyphs might have actually been the death of a palisman, which we know is very on brand for Belos. She'd originally predicted that that's why King and Ida got their weird new powers, just like how Hunter got a power from Flapjack, and instead of fighting Luce, they were just fighting someone else. I think this is a really cool idea, as it totally looks like it could be from a palisman, and I was even going to do an entire video on it, but then yesterday they released the official poster for the finale. Unfortunately, it essentially disproves that entire theory, as it confirms that what we're seeing here are in fact a bunch of glyphs. But that's totally fine too, because now we can just talk about that. The poster has glyphs floating up all over the place, exactly like what we see here with King and Ida. Now the glyphs in the poster could just be artistic, and simply represent that they're important this episode, but as we can also see what looks to be the Titan itself, I'm pretty sure the glyphs are supposed to actually be there. As we predicted that Belos would try to corrupt the Titan, or potentially even try to drain it of its power, it's possible then that this could be what's happening with the glyphs, and that they're leaving the Titan's body as a direct result of Belos. As we know that glyph magic harnesses the power of the Titan, what if all the glyphs that are floating off of it are then just an indication that it's losing its power, with the glyphs here physically containing its magic, and thus weakening the Titan as they're sucked away by Belos? This actually feeds into a bunch of your theories about how the Hexside Squad are using the glyphs to counter the Collector. As some of you had suggested, they're essentially just as good as using actual Titan magic. There are honestly just so many great ideas out here right now that I don't really know what to believe anymore. That was kind of the whole point of these videos though, just to get everyone talking about their theories in the comments. So please, don't be afraid to post your ideas for this video as well, as I might even get to talk about some of them again later on. Now this would mean that the light glyphs we see around King and Ida aren't from Luce's game, and are just from this instead. But that doesn't really change anything. I still think her challenge would be exactly what we said. Before I go, there's one more scene I want to take a look at. For a brief moment in the trailer, we see Luce's hand on a portal, and I think there's only 3 things this has the potential to be. It could just be a shot from the end as Luce decides to head home, but if that is the case, I don't think it's anything final, as there's currently no reason that she would have to pick a world. We know that King is a Titan now, meaning his blood can summon portals, and though I don't think they're all going to start just randomly cutting King, he could probably just learn to harness this power as he grew. And if that doesn't work, then that's okay, because Tiny Nose still has his blood.
I graduated from medical school.
It's actually probably inside Hooty right now. I actually think this might come into play, as they introduced the concept of Titan's blood literally the episode right after we got a blood sample from King. Like, I don't think that's a coincidence. I think if Eclipse Lake was before knocking on Hooty's door, we might have all gotten wise to the fact that King was a Titan. And so instead having them back to back the way that they did was honestly probably meant to be a little hint. And so I honestly wouldn't be surprised if this actually came back. The second option is that she's heading back to the in-between and will try to find and have a chat with whoever the heck this was. Now that's a whole other can of worms, and I have a bunch of theories on it, so that's gonna get its own video, as I think that's something else. I personally think the final option is the one that's the most likely, as I think this shot is just a part of her game with the Collector. Now I know she's still wearing her costume, which implies that this is real, but I think it's both real and also part of the dream as well. I think that what we're seeing here is actually just a flashback, and that Luce is just thinking back to the end of Thanks to Them. As this clip had originally represented the moment where Luce decided to leave her friends and stay in the human realm, it harkens back to the insecurities her challenge is focusing on, and so it could just be a part of that and not really anything else. This could even tie in to what she says to the Collector, as perhaps she's also reflecting on her own fantasies.
You know this can't last forever.
But hopefully in her case, it can all last forever. Well, unless Disney decides to cancel the— oh. But anyway guys, that's all my thoughts on the Watching and Dreaming trailer. Until tomorrow. I would love to hear all of your thoughts as well, so please guys, as always, let me know what you think in the comments, cause honestly, I don't know man. And check back tomorrow where we finally take a look at something very important that I totally forgot to mention. Okay, I know I might have said that this trailer shows us everything, but the reality is, if they're already showing us this much stuff, I can only imagine what they didn't want to show us. And that's the part that I think is really exciting. Whew. Okay, finally got there. All 5 of these together is like 30 minutes of video, which, with how fast I talk, is actually more like 60. Which I guess makes sense, as I basically just outlined the entire 60-minute episode, so I really need to take a break now. And by take a break, I mean keep making videos until the finale. I don't need a break, I'll take a break on Sunday. This trailer breakdown about to make me have a trailer breakdown.